following on from Axe Train's 1390 replay, we've got one here from Ren Han Shui on the EU server. Now, there are three Rens that regularly pop up in my videos. One is Ren Nerd, one is Ren Zero, and the third is Ren Han Shui. All three are different people. The former two both play on the NA server with me. Ren Han Shui is on the EU server playing with the other EU goons. So things may play out a little differently than the NA server in this match. The meta does differ a little between the two. Not hugely, but a bit. Unless I'm very much mistaken there, the enemy T29 is asking for a parlay of some sort. Good luck with that, guy. Right away, Ren heads north. Pretty standard play from medium on this map, particularly from the west spawn. North is the best place for medium overall. South's a little too heavy, generally. That's where the heavies and TDs tend to go. The terrain's a little less conducive to fast tanks. You do have some nice dunes to work with, but because of the sheer weight of firepower that tends to go down there, it can be a bit dicey. I have gone south in mediums from time to time, but I generally stick to taking heavies there and bringing mediums up this way, although I wouldn't usually take the path that Ren's taking here. Normally I'd make best speed for that crescent dune, the Cromwell just crest it on, and try and get first spots on the enemy, then fight around the corner of it. It does expose you somewhat to arty, excuse me, and also from TD shots from the enemy base if you go too far around the corner of the dune, but it's not a bad position. Looks like Ren's playing a much longer game here. He's trying to find a position where he can hit these guys in the side without driving directly in front of them like I would, which is a sensible strategy in the 416. It just doesn't have the armor or the hit points to take hits. Now, of course, we can see the reticle doing some interesting things. I'm fairly certain that Ren is using the Battle Assistant mod or some other mod that affects the reticle. I know Battle Assistant does it, I don't know if any others do. It does make it a bit difficult to tell what's going on, but actually, you know what? I think that may just be that he doesn't have a V-stab or something on this, because the 416 does bloom quite badly on movement, but I don't remember mine blooming anywhere near this badly. We'll wait and see. Nope, reticle's not shrinking while in sniper mode, it is Battle Assistant. There you go, not only can you learn various bits and pieces about tanks and strategies and maps by watching these videos, you can also learn which mods break the game in fun and interesting ways when you view a replay on the, well, not the standard client, but a client without that particular mod. So now we know what Battle Assistant looks like, we can tell who's using it. Anyway, Ren is in a slightly less than ideal engagement here. It looks like he's trying to rescue his Type 58 teammate, but the Type 58 basically suicided, so he's not worth rescuing at this point. He's one of the worst players on the team anyway, so there's not any point throwing away hit points to try and keep him alive. He's probably not going to click on enemies, and if he does, he's probably going to use HE. As you can see, the 416 just does not stand up in a face-to-face engagement with Tiger, a tier lower than it. The Tiger will punch through this thing easily and will knock a lot of hit points off in doing so. You don't have the HP pool to lose hit points in this. You've got about 100 less than equivalent tier medium tanks. The T44 and Type 59 are both sitting around 1300 from memory, and this thing has 1200. It seems the IS-6 is a little upset at the shitlers camping in the base. I mean, I would be pissed off at them too, but I wouldn't be pissed off enough to obsessively spam the chat for about 3 minutes. Looks like they have some real winners on the EU server. Ren makes a getaway. There's no point staying to defend the position he was in when it's obviously fallen. He pulls back, so there's a dune between himself and the heavies he was fighting, and goes for the easy kill on the Cromwell here to take its gun out of the game. Unfortunately, he happens to come across the T-34 in the process. The T-34 whiffs, he doesn't, down goes the Cromwell. And that was a really nice little power slide as he came around this crest of the dune as well. It's quite nice. The 416 is a superbly mobile medium tank. although it doesn't play much like a medium. Quick shot through the counterweight on the back of the T-34's turret. Now, if you're quick enough, you may have noticed the pen marker was orange there. That counterweight is about 200mm thick. You've actually got a better chance of penning the side of the T-34's turret than the back of it, and I think there might be a couple other tanks where that's true. The T-34, it's always been the case. I don't know if they model it on the Super Pershing, because the Super Pershing also has a very large counterweight on the back of its turret, but I think it was probably made of boilerplate or mild steel or something, so it might not be considered armor. I don't think it used to be, but I'm not sure. These are things for a rainy day in Tank Inspector, I suspect. Actually, it's occurred to me I've never actually put up a video of just tooling around looking at tanks in Tank Inspector, so that might be a thing for a future video. Just remind me periodically to do it, and I'm sure it'll happen eventually. As you may have guessed, when I'm actually recording these replays, I've got no notes, I've got no second monitor, so I'm not looking at Tank Inspector in that or anything. I'm pretty much just ad-libbing the whole thing, and so I'm bound to be wrong about certain things or misremember certain aspects of certain tanks. Shit happens. I just try and keep it pretty much live. I don't have time to script shit and fancily produce my videos and so on, and I really don't think there's much need to. If people really want to find out the intricacies of certain tanks' armor schemes, there's better channels for it. Mine's just pretty much pure gameplay, and that's how I like it. So anyway, in the amount of time it's taken me to do my little spiel there, Ren has been able to put some more damage into the enemy, and is now working on dragging this shitty pubby team to victory, whether they like it or not. A lot of the enemy tanks coming from the south are low on hit points, which plays into his hands. They're also occupied by the shitters in the base, and so they're presenting nice broadside targets to Ren, and they are not firing back at him. He is able to be spotted from this position, even though he's very low to the ground, but you can see the 416 is so small, and you can actually tell he's thinking about this because he's got the camera panned so long to the ground. So low to the ground. My mouth is operating a bit faster than my brain tonight. His tank is so low that the enemy can't actually hit him over the sand dune, and he's trying to make sure he stays below the crest of that dune. This is where I came undone when I first got my Yad Punter 2. I forgot how tall it was and promptly had a turbo carry ended just short of a win because I got shot in the top over a ridgeline, which I thought was covering me. No such problems in the 416. A stack of old newspapers is pretty much enough to hide your tank. It's really, really, really low to the ground. I think it may actually be the squattest medium tank above tier 5, but don't quote me on that, I have been wrong before. Ren's already up to 6 kills. That would be a top gun, and at 2k damage, that's a pretty respectable match in the 416. I think he's picked up some blind shots here too. However, he's not satisfied with merely a top gun, he wants a win, even if his teammates don't. So he takes the opportunity there to get a shot at the Tiger. It was an auto-aim snapshot, so it was likely to bounce, and indeed it did, but it was preferable to sitting in the open, taking a potentially 350 odd damage hit from the Tiger 2, potentially 380 if he high rolled, and 340 off a max roll, because the Tiger 2 I'm pretty sure has the same alpha as the 416 itself does. I'm struggling to think at the moment. He does take a hit there, but he's able to put 2 into the Tiger 2, and here comes a third, and he's able to finish it. Now, sometimes you do have to make suboptimal shots just to get something into the enemy's face and maybe make him panic without getting himself killed. While you might not be putting out damage, you are forcing him to think about his cover, forcing him to think about his options as far as escape go. So it is worth usually firing even if you aren't expecting a pen, even if you aren't expecting a hit sometimes. Really, if you're already spotted, the enemy's already paying attention to you, and you aren't low on ammunition, there's not much reason not to. Obviously, looking at his ammo count, Ren's got plenty to deal with the sole remaining enemy, which is their Artie. By now, he's picked up just shy of 3k in spotted damage, probably, I'd say, another 300 or 400 unspotted at least. and 8 kills. This is a good turnaround, and despite the best efforts of the number 1 platoon and the AMX-50, Ren has been able to drag this team kicking and screaming to victory. Well, perhaps not yet. He's got to find and kill that arty first, and avoid getting shotgunned. But things are looking pretty good. And this is the kind of work that the 416 excels at. While Sand River isn't the best map for it because of the lack of foliage, or at least the relative lack of foliage, it is a superb game turnaround tank because it just excels at putting out high DPM shots accurately at any range from camo, and it has the squat profile and the mobility to get away in a hurry. It's good at carrying for the same reason that the Jagdpanther 2 is good at carrying. It can transport an exceptionally good gun from one end of the battlefield to the other in a very short amount of time. However, unlike the Jagdpanther, it can both camouflage itself efficiently and also take quick shots on the move. The JP is more reliant on fixed positions, but same general theory. You've got a quick chassis with a very good gun. This one's a smaller gun, but you know, it's a medium tank, you'd expect it to be. Well, actually, on that note, it's a smaller gun, but it's still abnormally large for a medium tank at this tier, and this is a theme that you get when you come up through the Object 430 line. In the A43, you have basically the same gun options as the T34 before it. The 57mm is my own favourite, because it just shits out shells so quickly, but it's best when you play in a platoon because you can basically fire 57mm shells non-stop. If you have 3 A43s focus firing the same target with a 57, it's literally just a non-stop rain of shells, and it can whittle people down very quickly before they even realise it. And as you can imagine, that many high-pen shots, or relatively high-pen shots, hitting that quickly, especially if they're well aimed, that's going to crit the shit out of people. Now, you also have the option for the 76mm gun, which is a piece of shit on the T34, don't use it, but on the the A43, it's actually a decent gun. I'm still biased towards the 57, but the 76 is completely viable and probably, honestly, the better option if you aren't playing in a platoon. It has very, very good handling compared to the atrocious handling it has on the T34, and it has a good DPM. From memory, the 57 does have slightly higher, but don't quote me on that because I'm probably wrong. Both guns handle fantastically. The A43 is brilliant for zipping about, firing on the move. It's basically a Soviet Easy-8. Now, from the A43 you move up to the A44. The A44's gimmick, other than being a back-to-front tank like the 416 and 430 variant 2 that follow it, is that it has a really big gun for a medium. It carries a 107mm gun. Now, this is the same gun you'll see a lot of Tier 7 heavies using while they're still grinding for their 122s. This is the same gun that made the KV-3 such a nightmare back when it was a Tier 6. It's also, from memory, the same gun the KV-5 gets. So it's a powerful gun for tier, let alone for a medium tank. The trade-off is atrocious handling and the bad module layout of the A44. Basically, if the A44 takes a penning hit anywhere, it's either going to rack you or set you on fire or kill like half your crew in one shot. The A44, a lot of people shit on it. I personally kind of like it. It's a bit of an oddball. It's kind of hit or miss. You have good days in it, you have bad days in it, perhaps more notably than any other tank. It's very bipolar, but when it does work, it works spectacularly. I do have some old A44 videos up on my channel, so if you look through all my uploaded videos and just search A44, you should find them. But that gun does 300 alpha at tier 7 on a medium. Now, you do pay for it, of course, with gun handling, and as I said, the A44's existing issues that aren't gun related. And it has a middling reload, I guess. But mediums putting out 300 alpha at tier 7 until then was unheard of. Unless somebody mounted the 122mm derp on the T43 and actually managed to pen a shot, which didn't really happen a whole lot. And even then, I don't think it... No, it would have done about 350 alpha, I think. I don't use that gun. I haven't used that gun since beta, so you can probably tell I'm hazy on the details. But in any case, the 107 on that tank is spectacularly hard-hitting for a medium tank. And it took a lot of pubbies by surprise when it came into the game. You don't expect to be hit by a medium for half your hit points. At Tier 7 medium's about 1,000 hit points, maybe 1,100. So that's, what, 3.5 shots from an A44 will finish a same tier medium. Same tier heavy, you're looking about 1,200, 1,300 hit points. So that's 4 shots, maybe 5. And you can really see why the A44 kind of changed things when it entered the game. Now, as if that wasn't enough, of course the A44 does have its issues. The pen on the 107 is not so great when you're fighting tier 9s, which you will do in a tier 7 medium tank, but the A44 then leads on to this little thing, and the Object 416 has very few of the A44's problems. It does still have poor gun depression and elevation, that's true. It has basically no survivability, it has no armor, no hit points, and its internal modules tend to get damaged quite easily. So it does have that problem, but it has phenomenal camo, very, very good camo, and very good mobility, much better than you would expect from the A44, and those two combined kind of make up for all its other flaws. Of course, you do have the limited traverse turret as well, but as I've explained before in other videos, particularly with the 430 variant 2, it doesn't really factor in because the hull traverses so quickly. The only time you even really notice that is when you get tracked or wedged against something and can't turn your hull. The gun on this thing is essentially the T-54's best gun, or the 430 variant 2's best gun, the stock gun for it, at tier 8. This is unprecedented. This is essentially a tier 10 gun at tier 8. Yeah, it's not the same gun technically, it's named differently. This is the M63, not the D10 T2S, but it's the same gun, believe me. Same pen on AP, APCR, same handling, same or similar DPM. It's very much the same sort of gun, and so if you've played the T-54 with that gun, you're going to be ready for this thing. That at tier 8 is just disgusting, and the amount of DPM this thing can shit out. And of course you'll pen very easily. 201 pen on AP at tier 8. Yes please, that's pretty good. From memory, a lot of the other tier 8s do have about 220-ish, 210, 220-ish. So it is a little on the low end, but you're still ahead of the idiot gun-based mediums, say the T-44, the Type 59, the T-34-2 if it's using the 100mm gun. All of those, you're ahead of them. And because you're so small and well camouflaged, and you've got such good mobility, plus the good handling of the gun, the 201 goes a little further than you'd expect. Much the same way that the T-54's 201 pen AP goes a lot further than you'd expect, when most other tier 9 mediums have between 220 and 270 pen. So you've got that. You've of course also got the excellent heat round that entails, but more to the point, you have 320 alpha on a tier 8 medium. This is equivalent to a tier 8 heavy. The 105mm guns of the T-32, of the King Tiger, they have 320 alpha. You hit as hard as they do, but you're a medium. What's more, your gun handles better, your gun fires faster. You can just vomit DPM from this tank. It is just... oh, it's so good. Really, this thing would be hideously overpowered if it wasn't for the fact that pubbies are really, really bad at using something with a weird turret layout and no armor. Put in the hands of a good player, though, this thing makes the old Hellcat look like an angel. It's really, really good, and people who are actually, know what's up, basically, can really use it to have some spectacular games. You can really exploit the good qualities of this tank while player skill accounts for the weaknesses of it. Now this of course leads to the 430 variant 2. The 430 variant 2 isn't quite so outrageous in the gun department. It keeps the same gun, just under a different name. Again, I don't know why they made them two separate guns but gave them the exact same stats. I assume there's some reason. Perhaps the M63 was just a renamed D10, I don't know. But the best gun for the 430 variant 2 is the D10 T2S, or T2C as it's written in game, not the D54. The D54 does have marginally higher AP pen, but I've been over this before and people go over it all the time. It's not worth having a touch more AP pen for worse gun handling. You want better gun handling, because the better gun handling doesn't just mean that you're going to hit things more often, it means that the lower pen AP is going to be more useful than the higher pen shit anyway, because you're actually going to hit where you're aiming and you're going to be able to hit weak spots. So you retain the 320 alpha on the next tier up, which brings you into line with the T34. And actually you begin to fall behind there, because in tier 9 you have things like the M46 is 105, the Centurion, the Type 61, all of those, and they all have 390 alpha 105s. So that's where you start to lose the alpha race, but you win the DPM race anyway. But it's a very interesting line. It does rely very heavily on good guns, and then sort of as you get towards the end of the tree you start to pick up good armor as well. It can't quite make up its mind what it wants to do, so it does take a bit of adjusting to get used to. Each part of the tree plays slightly differently. This part, the Object 416 in particular, does play very much like a tank destroyer rather than a medium tank, a very, very mobile tank destroyer. But at the end of the day, I would say it's probably one of the strongest tier 8s in the game. When played to its strengths, obviously it won't beat a Tiger in a city engagement, but if you put this thing on Prokhorovka against pretty much any other tier 8, it should win. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. As ever, I'll see you on the next one.